Good morning. I'm seeing a lot of heat on adolescence, and I've watched it. I think it's a true representation of what that can look like frontline for those of us that work in the profile of young offenders, perpetrators of abuse, and it begins very, very young. And some of the reason I think that for this to be in the edge of parents' awareness is that the exposure of violence online is absolutely rife at the moment. I think I've shared in some of my videos that working in the schools, what I am witnessing is a profile of extreme harm to our growing younger generations, and that profile is looking like the exposure to rapid amounts of violence and trauma online is going to have a developmental impact on the ability to regulate emotions. The reason being is because of this. Now, this is not whimsical. This is scientific, explored, clinical pieces of evidence that really show us. And then again, I think that for myself, the frontline work of watching this play out in real life, real world, is that if we have children that are growing up in high degrees of trauma with poor attachment, so they cannot find a relationship to safety or balance in their inner worlds, and it's not afforded to them. So it's really important to, I think, qualify that. These children don't get the privilege or the honor to have regulated nervous systems and to be able to regulate emotion, because they're in a constant state of survival, because it's not a primitive, this is a primitive response, your fight, flight, freeze function. It's a survival instinct that every human being has, because it's a primal driver. It's something that is in all animals, because it's there to keep you alive, because this world is not safe to move through. The complication is that this primal thing that we have, and we've had it since the beginning of evolution, is that the threat isn't a saber-toothed tiger anymore. The threat is in the household, and it's on repeat. So the impact in terms of the brain is that the response and the cortisols that's released impacts the mechanics of your working systems here. And it's only so far is understood by the neuroscientists in this world, who only really understand a small percentage of your brain's function. But what they do know, because of CAT scans and what they've been able to look at, is the brain starts to change and it rewires itself into a position of defense. And that defense here, and what is captured in that series, is that empathy burns out. Now, when I'm in schools and children are watching animal cruelty, sexual violence, I can't even tell you what it is that they tell me, because it's so sickening to know. But they're looking at the world, and a big shift collectively is happening in our children and young people, and they're giving up a lot quicker because they think, what's in the future for me? Now, I think that gender specifically, this looks quite different as well, because girls that are looking at things like Bonnie Blue and situations like this, and all the OnlyFans people out there, and all the women that are taking pictures of themselves relentlessly, what do you think our teenagers are looking at right now? By comparison, they're looking at that. That's why I think that we need to show up with a really good intention online for this growing younger generation, because I am telling you, as a therapist that works on trauma, they're not doing too good at the moment. Very difficult for a young woman to accept herself, have self-esteem, self-worth. And I even see it in my own daughter, and it's begun, and I will not have it. You need radical self-acceptance to move through this world, and it's really difficult to tune into that when you are being bamboozled with all of this really harmful stuff coming in, and there is no boundaries. The internet is unregulated, so there are pedophiles, sex offenders, the worst of the worst on there, bullying, all of these things are there. Why, as a parent, and even if you're a great parent and you show up, be really strict on what it is that they're going to observe, because if, like that kid, and they're watching people having their heads cut off, because that's what they've shared with me in school, and that's what they airdropped. That was only last year that I had a kid telling me that, with no emotion attached to it. And that was the most scariest thing in all of that, is I'm watching, it's gone around the school and it's not. And I was like, hang on a moment. You're watching someone have their head cut off and you don't have an emotional response to it. And that for me is terrifying, because it's showing me that you are burning out your empathy. I worked in prisons with young people. I know how dangerous empathy burnout is because their capacity to care is massively reduced and they go into very harmful territories with that. So we need to bring back kindness, compassion, integrity, showing up with humility, creating humanitarians in the world because we need them right now. And what we don't want is a growing generation that are going to have limited empathy available to them, because that's going to look very, very dangerous in the future. If you want to know more, come on the ACE course, because I will talk about all of this, what it is and what it's looking like real world and real life, and how I work with that.